Okay. So just chit-chatting. I want to give it like 2 more minutes because I see people are still joining. Good to see everyone. During the webinar, you saw there is a chat and there is also a Q&A area. So anything that you have, just push it in the Q&A and we will try to answer by the end of the webinar. So even if we don't answer right away, so just play with that, and there is a chat so you can talk between you. I want to see, so yeah, I think starting to get there, like more than, I don't know, almost 50% of the people who sign up are starting to join. Let's use here. So just before we tap in, I want to ask you a few questions if you can answer to this poll. Do you see the poll, guys? Can you please answer? I see no one is answering. It's really cool. Yeah. Oh, I wonder who are with us in Dubai in our event. To be honest, I personally still recovering. Still working on it. It was fun. Nice. Few more people didn't answer. I see we have a lot of guys that do leads, some guys that do e-com, one guy that do apps. That's interesting. I used to do apps a few years back. Few do content, which is an amazing. Okay, 40% of the guy who answer. I will be happy if more of you will answer, only like around 60% answer. So you see 40% are pretty new with us. Mostly Facebook and lots of native too, a little bit of TikTok and push. That's cool. Yeah, 5 guys that were in Dubai with us. That's amazing. Good to see you too, Ashish. Cool. So I give you 1 more minute to answer the poll and then we are starting. Cool. So yeah, what we're gonna do today is a webinar that focuses on creative, and for this amazing purpose, our creative team, in-house creative team, chooses to join and share some golden nuggets from the day-to-day work. So we have Adam, specialized on native creative, here with us for quite a time, and
Hello.
She's doing both native and Facebook. So we're gonna give both sides. Again, it will be a webinar that talk about, a bit macro about the gold, about creative and how to do those better. And then we're gonna drill down to the day-to-day work, how to do it faster, how to look at competitors, and basically how we do it and balance up our work in order to keep, volume and quantity that we're gonna share in a second. Cool. Wanna start?
Let's get started.
You ready, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam on stage.
Hey guys, as Ken mentioned, my name's Adam. I'm a creative campaign manager here in the Shines office. And today we are going to talk through the process of analyzing and creating successful creatives. I'm going to start with the top level analysis, and we're going to look at the end of the day in a world that is inundated with adverts, that you have ad fatigue. What makes people stop and click? I suggest you spend time on the platforms you use, scroll through them at different stages in the day, and kind of look at what ads resonate with you. What ads make you think that you're going to stop on your device, whether it's a tablet or a cell phone, and you're going to stop and click through. Cool. All right, great. All right. So we're going to look at the first step in our kind of macro approach is to look at the numbers behind a great creative. At the end of the day, the foundation of any good campaign is successful creatives. So how do we quantifiably measure success in creative? In our context, the golden metrics are CTR and PPS. CTR being your click-through rate and PPS being your pages per session. Naturally, CTR is the buzzword in our industry. Good CTR is the ultimate flex as a creative campaign manager. But like any famous duo, a cosmic CTR rate is no good without decent PPS. So the natural question then is, why is it important to have good CTR and high PPS? If your CTR rate is high and your PPS low, it means that your creative is over-promising and your landing page is under-delivering. The steps you can take then is either to adjust the landing page to incorporate what you've said in your creative, or alternatively to adjust the creative if it's over-delivering. At the end of the day, this relationship is important to consider because a low PPS will ultimately affect the page RPM and the profitability of a campaign. So in aiming to find a good ratio between these unique angles, we try to do this by finding an unique angle on the landing page that actually features in the campaign. If we can do this, we can ensure that the users will not only click on the ad, but remain on the ad. This is an often overlooked aspect of any successful creative. Volume, and quantity. Another golden ratio that we look at is the relationship between volume and quantity. Cannot be stressed enough in the content arbitrage world that there is no golden formula for a successful creative. A host of parameters always affect the performance of any campaign. But from a creative asset perspective, the best thing we can do is create quality volume. By volume, we mean consistently uploading, analyzing, reanalyzing, and re-uploading campaigns. Essentially, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, but you want to redesign the winning wheel. It's a vital skill in our industry. Familiarize yourself with winning creatives, tweak and change them, and re-upload them at appropriate times. Identify what works, but also try and identify what doesn't. Find a good balance between uploading volume and quantity, and in this ratio lies success. Moving forward, we're going to look at the golden rules. First golden rule is to create for the target market. Why we create for a specific target market, we look at a certain older demographic, often for the US or other geographies around the world, but we try and market this older demographic because they bring us higher value customers. Advertisers pay in CPM, and if we can target older demographic, they're more valuable to us and bring us better returns. So if we look at a case study here, this campaign is targeting gymnastics, but it's targeting Nadia Kamensky, a gymnast who rose to fame in the 1970s, but a gymnast that has an undertone. She's very important to a specific generation. And in the copy here, we can find an approach that sort of twists an aspect of the article and affects the way that a generation that holds her dear looks at it. So this is just one case study of how we kind of write for a specific target market. Research and dig up a unique angle. It is vital to research each creative and make sure that you have a new and interesting angle to kind of market. In this example here, you can see this is from an awards show ceremony. Again, consistent with the theme, you can't read the text here, but the text is making reference to kind of the racial identity of the lady being interviewed. And she says, yes, I'm not tanned, I'm ethnic. Again, that's consistent with the idea of targeting a specific audience and speaking to an issue that is contentious in that audience. Make sure your images and copy relate to the story. Again, you need to have a consistency between your creatives. All your creative assets, your images, your copy, and your landing page need to have a fluency. So you're creating for a specific target market. You've now created these creatives that it aims to have a consistency that uses your unique angle that you dug up. In these cases, you can see that it's taken exactly what we're talking about and had one consistent thread throughout. Use visually stimulating images. Naturally, for platforms like Facebook, if we don't often use single images, but we use both single images and collages, you want to use a set of images that often are contrasting in color, that are very stimulating, that have an element that they're relatively vague enough that someone wants to find out more and click through, but not too vague that it becomes disinteresting for the user. It's very interesting. It's very important to sift through images and make sure that you're certain that this image is going to make people stop and click. And lastly, building on what works. Moving forward, Eden is going to explain to you on a kind of micro level how we build these creatives. But what's very important to understand is that we need to build on what works. You can't reinvent the wheel every single time. So look at what works, re-upload, duplicate, tweak, and try and develop new angles on content that's already working. In doing so, you can find a winning formula.
Hello, Eden here. We're going to do a little quiz. Can you spot the winning creative? I'm going to pull up a poll right now, and let's see if you can guess which image worked better. Okay, we're still waiting for 13 people to answer.
How does the results look now? Are they on the right track?
It looks like you guys are on the right track. And we're gonna end poll. Share results?
No.
No? Okay. So it seemed like most of you got the answer correct. The winning one was number 3. So from that winning image, can you see a similar pattern? These other images that were used for campaigns are from stories about dirty dancing and even strange things that you can find at the Kardashian home. Do you see a winning pattern? Please let us know in the chat. Should I wait? Okay, so we're going to continue. As you can see, there's a call to action on Black text. Look closer, right over here, kind of hiding a certain spot where most people wouldn't want to be looked at directly. Negative facial expressions, such as disgust, anger, upset, etc. As you can see in the winning picture, all of them are kind of looking in a similar direction to the main image that was shown. Contrasting colors for each square of the collage. So basically, as Adam mentioned, each picture kind of needs its own spotlight. And so contrasting colors that are also eye-popping, such as yellows and reds and blues, will really make the audience kind of have a peak interest to each single picture of themselves. And also pictures that are withholding, but not too much. In the past slide, as you can see in the Kardashian home, the main picture was a picture of what looks like a sink, but it looked like there was nowhere for the water to go, and that if someone just turned it on, it would spill everywhere. So it's like, what's going on here? And they would want to look further. Now images are one thing that does matter, but so does another thing, the headline and text. Can you guess which one of these three is the winner? Wow, it looks like all three of them are getting pretty equal results. %65% of you voted. Okay. So actually, we're going to end poll now. Most of you said number 3, which is Michael O'Hare breaks down 17 plus details of The Blind Side. That was wrong. Actually, the winner was number 1. Michael O'Hare's meeting with Sean Tahoe was portrayed all wrong in the movie. In the movie The Blind Side. Here are 23 details that was wrong in The Blind Side. So why was that the winning creative? Number 1, it gives a juicy detail that's in the article and it's withholding, but not too much. It uses words with a negative connotation, wrong, lies, scandals, the word scandal works. And also Facebook's policy is that you really need to be transparent in what the article is about. So you don't necessarily need to use numbers, but you have to tell them what your article is going to talk about. So you have no time or you don't even know where to start when it makes a creative. So luckily, we have a few things to let you know that will make the process of making a creative go faster. First, don't look at the first 10 slides of an article. The reason why, as Adam mentioned before, was that you want a good PPS. That means the most pages that they read. The more pages they read, the more advertisements they see, the better value we get. Also, our writers put more of the juicy details closer to the end so that it's easier to find if you don't even pay attention to the first 10 to 15 slides. Number 2, search the webs. There are definitely many tools that we could use. Facebook ad library for one, Google and Reddit. Even searching Google, you put the name of the article, you can find examples of what other competitors use, and they actually might give you that juicy detail so you don't even have to look yourself. Number 3, make a list of competitor fan pages. That way you have it all ready, so when you go into the Facebook ad library, you can find examples quick. And we'll show this in an example. I'll see.
Units apart.
Yeah, let me read them.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm the tech guy. Cool.
Okay, so number 4 was use competitor advertisement and kind of build off them. So here, we're going to go to Facebook ad library. I already used one of the popular fan pages that are our competitor called Autos 101. Over here, I scroll and I see that there are awkward family photos, and I know that we have an article about that. We have this one here, and this one here. And as you can see, these advertisements were successful by the amount of times that they were duplicated. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were successful, but most of the time it is. So let's take this awkward family photo and let's try to build off. So I'm gonna save the image. And then we can use Google. You just search awkward family photos in Google and things, come up here. You can see that this one says awkward family Christmas photos. You can make a quick text about that. Like everybody makes Christmas photos and some families are just way awkward within another one. And then boom, you have something to say. And Reddit we also use. And again, you can search on Google awkward family photos on Reddit and things will search up. Different kids. You see this one is like a photo of an ant, but it looks like she's holding something. I'm gonna save that. And then let's go. And then basically what I do is I use this amazing tool called VFunky. We do different things like collages and single images, but this time let's do a collage. So you can go here. I uploaded the images that I would like to use, plus the image from the competitors. So I found this photo of a dad and his two daughters, and it says ho, ho, ho. Audience loves pretty girls. I'm going to do this picture of the ant holding a jar of pickles, and I'll explain why in a second. And I'm going to use the competitor's photo for the last pick. I saw this one image in the competitor's photo of a mom, her husband, and then children in red water. It's kind of weird and interesting. And it's a eye popper. I'm gonna put that in there. And then the last but not least, since the other collages that I showed you has a call to action, one thing that can definitely help is something called black text. I would advise you to make, hold on, how do I make this bigger? I advise you to make like a table that everything kind of is easy for you, that you can quickly go to that table, take a phrase and upload it to the photo. As you see, we have it broken down in viral funny, hacks, and celebrities. And honestly, I would love if you can give us some examples of what you would use in this collage or in this table. As you can see, are you seeing this? Look closer. I hate my friends. Hacks. How did I not know this? I've been doing this the whole time. Don't ever make this mistake again. And celebrities. Everybody loves a celebrity scandal. So use words like, this was so scandalous. They did what? I wish no one found out about this. So as you can see, we'll take one of these viral funny ones. Oh no, where'd they go? Here. Add text. You can play with, honestly, you can play with the background and the colors you use. What we found out works for us is that the background is a little bit transparent with white text. Like, why would anyone frame this? something like "this is so gross" for that water one. Save it, and basically you're ready to upload it with a text that, as you can see in the competitors, you can basically copy the text, but you do want to change the wording a little bit. And the last thing I do want to mention is the reason why you don't want to take competitors' images and text straight from the source is that you don't know if the photo has been shadow banned from Facebook. You don't know if other competitors are overusing it. And also sometimes these competitors might duplicate photos many, many times, but it's not successful. And basically a summary. So we're going to go back to Adam.
And we back.
I add a few things about each one. So yeah.
So as we mentioned, the first step when we're looking at a campaign at a top level is to create for the target audience. Bear in mind the fact that we're writing or we're creating copy and creatives and we for a specific demographic. Not necessarily just the geography, but the demographic. It's got to speak to that demographic. You can't create or develop any creatives with your mindset in place. You have to put your mind in the mindset of the user, the person. Does it resonate with that generation? Does it, if your goal is to perhaps try and get them to click through, it needs to incite them in some way, whether that's positive or negative. You have to think, is what I'm putting forward relevant to the person who's going to be looking at the creative?
Yeah, I'm just going to add again, as Adam mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, the main reason that we target older users, so most of our audience is like 40 plus, and the main reason is because they generate higher CPM on our side, so eventually a higher EPC. So yeah, you need to think how you advertise to your parents rather than your friends.
Cool. So on that note, we're thinking of our parents in mind, an older generation. You need to research and dig up an angle that speaks to that generation. For example, the example we gave in the slide was that Nadia Kamensky. She was a superstar that was valuable to that generation. So if we found an angle to kind of undermine what she said, it's obviously going to incite them to go and dig it up and try and find this to bring up perhaps in a dinner conversation or something up. Number 3 is use visually stimulating images. The images, especially on native and on Facebook, user-generated images tend to do a lot better. They need to fit in organically with the platform. So you need to bear that in mind. Sites such as Eden mentioned, sites such as Yandex and Google are very helpful, but also spend time collecting a bank of images from places like Reddit and eBaum's World. These are sites that produce user-generated images, and not only that, user-generated images that resonate already with the internet. So there's some sort of metric for success to these images. So you can go into Reddit, for example, and filter by images that are hot and collect a bank of those that really have that perfect element of vagueness, of clickability, if for lack of a better phrase. Cool. Move into step number 4. Make sure that there's a common thread between your image, your copy, and your angle. Remember that there needs to be a thin line that pulls all of the aspects together. On our platforms, we want to make sure that we found an angle, that our copy is inciting or it's forcing the user to move in a certain direction, and that the image corresponds. Without this, we won't have a decent CTR and we won't have a good PPS.
Yeah, I want to add here that if you think you have an idea for a good creative, you can try it in low scale. Even if it's not in the article, then you can send this to us, and if it's compliant and by the policy, we can easily add it to the article too. So we can all the time test creative, and when proved to be high CTR, but in this case have low PPS because it's not in the article, or it's not related to the article, you can ask from us, and if it works, we can easily add it, and that will solve the PPS issue.
Yeah, exactly. And that moves perfectly onto our last step, build on what works. Test creatives, whether it's at a low scale and they're showing potential, perhaps the page RPM wasn't good on that day. Don't throw away your hard work. Build on what you've got. Take creatives that are showing promise and re-upload them to perhaps different domains or different, it may be a timing issue, or rework and reinvent the creative. Perhaps the angle was overshooting, or perhaps it wasn't dramatic enough, but build on what you've already done. And in doing that, you will see success.
And a little summary, even though it's probably still fresh in your mind, is again, use the tools as the internet provides, such as Adam mentioned. We have Google, Reddit, Facebook ad library, and there are also other spy tools that you can find on the internet. Find the juicy and unusual detail. We have many things from stories to gallery articles where things don't even, it's not like a story. So you might find that weird, super weird picture and base your creative off of that. Be a little withholding, but not too much. The user has to understand exactly what they're saying. They have to understand what they're saying, but have a little bit of what's going on here factor. And again, mix it up. Don't use the same images and text. You always want to test because you never know which is going to be, the perfect word or that perfect image that people will want to click on.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Eden. So basically, yeah, I think like a lot of knowledge, maybe it was, we were recording it, so you will be able to watch it. I will give you some time to write some question now. And just as a side note for me, the main reason that we did this webinar about creative is that I think a lot of you don't understand how important is this part. We as Shines, we're supposed to take care of, the content, the monetization, we give you the tracking, and maybe some of you heard me say the only missing puzzle, part of the puzzle is a creative. And an article can, work or don't work just on base of creative, because we're supposed to, and we think that we know how to write articles, and we know how to keep people read and stay, and we know how to generate high EPC. So in this case, a creative that work will make this article work too. And sometimes we release an article and only a few months after someone come with a creative angle, or there is something new in the article that might work. Cool, let me open some question. Let's go from the bottom. Okay, Craig, we will never be able to use native other than Rev content.
Will we ever be?
Yeah, basically, from our experience, it's super hard for partners to run native. We usually are more open to it after someone kind of, prove that they understand the model and how content is working, and you know how our system and our tracking and understand the numbers. Then yeah, I can go off and say, okay, try Tabula, Outbrain, and whatever you want. But without any clue about content arbitrage and without like previous experience, it's just useless, and a lot of people lose money, and we are not into making our partner lose money. So this is the main thingy. Vitali, huge thanks for this golden info. Yeah,
You're
those
welcome.
guys. Can you give some advice for text writing?
As I mentioned before, you want to find that juicy or outrageous detail in the article. Once you find that, you can quickly write, you can even take, honestly, the exact phrasing sometimes, use it in the article, change it up a bit, make it a little bit questionable, and then just say what the article is going to be about. I hope I answered your question.
If you also perhaps if you're struggling to find ways to write engaging text, you can also go onto competitive fan pages, look at what's worked, and there's a variety of tools online such as copy.ai that creates kind of AI copy. So it may not necessarily give you winning copy per se in content arbitrage, but it can start getting the ball rolling by giving you kind of examples, and then you can build on those examples if you're feeling stuck.
Nice.
Yeah. When you find a winning creative.
Do you guys provide a recording after I joined at point 3? Yeah, we record this and it will be live on our YouTube. Okay, let's go back to the Q&A. When you find a winner creative, do you find that the CPC will change quite a lot the next day? But if you launch it again, you might have hit good CPC. Again, that campaign can be profitable for one day, but not scalable. Usually, it means it's not a winning creative. If it's not consistently keeping the CPC low after duplication, after changing to a different EPC goal, that's not the creative you are looking for. So you just need to make it better. A creative that works from day one and have enough like ROAS in order to scale without kind of kill the profitability. So yeah, any native, let's talk on personal. To be honest, it's just, we are trying to keep your money safe. It's just much harder native, but we can talk personally and see if we can give it a try. Ashish, don't worry, I'm on it. Craig. Okay. Craig said that he love to run content, but then Facebook is how can I say it? It's a pain in the ass and gets everyone banned. We kind of have a solution for it. We're gonna go with it probably next month. As mentioned before, so it's still not out, so you guys pretty much the first to hear about it. We're gonna start nest our partners under our own BM, and our BM is not getting banned. And we are managed by Facebook, so everything is much more easy. You can get ad disapproved, but it won't like kill the BM at the same minute. So we're gonna go with an offer, and if you have experience on Facebook and you're into running content, we will be able to supply you with our BM, our account, and even our funding in order to run creative and be successful. So that's pretty new. We are still working on the system. It's not easy, like things that are not easy to solve. But yeah, I think it's pretty unique, and some guys will really take advantage of it.
Here's one about how many different images do you text.
Someone said I have a very good experience on Rev content running. Yeah, if you're raising your hand, I think you can just write the question. I'm not sure if someone raised their hand, what should I do? If you're running a good experience running Rev content CPA offer, what advice someone who start promoting content? I will tell you, like for me, the change, I was doing CPA, CPL, CPI, and eventually after going full circle, you understand that it's exactly the same thing. So also in our side, we have pixels, conversion rate, we have CPCs, and the main goal is to make a killer creative. So it doesn't really matter what offer you're dealing with. It does important to understand the metrics that we have to see why something is working or not, and if it's not working, why it's not working, and if it is working, what makes it work, and then try to, like I said, build on top of it. Sylvester, do you keep track on winning creative ratio, or it's fluctuating a lot?
What do you mean by that?
You mean how many out of the creative that we upload are a winner? If that's the question, so I will say roughly that maybe 10 or 20% out of all the creative that we test can show some potential. Some of them we will be able to scale. With that said, some winners will last for years, like literally years. It might, work really good on Q4, and then January came and EPC is not good enough, so the creative is not working. But then 2 months after, we're gonna re-upload it as is, and it will catch fire again.
And sometimes same for creatives that don't work. You have a creative and you see that it's one of those months that are doing really bad, but you see it as high CTR and high PPS with relatively low cost. Definitely give it a try when the month is better. You never know if it's going to work. It's happened to me where I've had a month where 10 out of 50 creatives had really good CTR and PPS. And then the next month when things looked better, I uploaded it and it did me pretty good money.
Nice. What are e-com author owner? What can we do for you? I don't know, but we can talk in person and see. I'm actually trying to also do some tests with combining CPA offers or products in our articles. Still didn't find the right way to do it. Anyway, I don't know what you have, but we can give it a try and we can think on how to make viral content together.
What if you're advertising a professional product? So one of the questions is, what if you're advertising to professional products, services? How do you approach the content? Would giving negative and controversial angle be applied in this case? Thank you. So I would say yes and no. I've definitely seen Wendy. I don't know if you guys know Wendy's, but they opened a Twitter account. And anytime someone kind of gives them trouble, they answer back with a sassy comment, which gives them actually more street cred. And as you can see, Coke and Pepsi have been doing it for years. Pepsi it tastes like Coke, or Coke, we're not Pepsi. McDonald's and Burger King, they always go against each other. So yeah, negative and controversial angle can actually be applied.
Nice. How many creatives you make for testing one article? That's a good question. Basically, on the day-to-day on Facebook, I'm talking, and we're gonna test always. We're gonna build one campaign with 2 ad sets with 3 ads under it, and each ad obviously have different creative. It might be the same image, but then different text or completely different creative. So that's Facebook. If nothing works, we believe that we can find a better creative, we will re-upload again the same method, probably. Or if one of those work, we're gonna try to work out of it. So one work better, so we're gonna again do the same rotation and maybe do 6 other that are looking better. On native, how many?
Well, I think it depends. If it's a new article and you're approaching it from scratch, I tend to kind of filter down as you go along. So I would do between 4 ads per ad set and maybe 2 ad sets in a campaign. So you'd have 8 unique creatives. And then as you're getting feedback from those creatives, you're having a look at what got approved or what did well and what didn't, and filtering it down. So then if you're working on a campaign you've already tried before, I tend to use 3 or 4 unique creatives that I feel or have seen through the data have potential. So it's 2 different methodologies based on what you're trying to achieve.
here is something that's important for me to say. I mentioned it in past talks and lectures. Our top partners are uploading 200, 300 new ads every day, like minimum. Some of them can go up to 700. It doesn't mean it's new ads completely. It might be the same ad, but different audience. We just count how many UTM campaigns. So it might be, the same creative on different on different domains or different devices, etc., etc. There is this thing about volume. You need to upload a lot of creative, and you don't know what will stick, especially in our case. But then the risk is not that high. You can start each creative with, I don't know, $3, $5 per image, and you're not going to lose everything. It's not like CPA, obviously. How do you decide if the creative is a winner? That's again, okay, so then you ask that, and then you start talking about profitability. A creative that a winner is that the creative itself act like a winner, meaning high CTR, that it's relevant, that it's not misleading, meaning that it have high BPS. And at this point, I don't even care about profitability. Right? So in this case, I don't care if I'm profitable or not. I'm just looking on the numbers. And if you're going to ask us, we're going to say to you, now the winner creative is depend on the Q of the year. Now you need to buy mobile US in 6 cents in order to be profitable. Now you need to buy in 10 cents in order to be profitable. So we can give you the benchmark. You can run the creative and see. Also, I'm going to top up out of it something interesting that one of our partners found, and we noticed is that on days that the kind of overall page RPM is a bit lower, like the beginning of a quarter or a Q1 or the start of a week, is actually moving to promote articles that have higher PPS in general, and that's kind of balancing out and still generate higher EPC. So that's an interesting point to look at. Does Facebook hate content arbitrage? Yes or not? No. Again, we are there. We are doing everything right. We are managed by Facebook. They have a division that deal with all the content arbitrage players. So I don't know if they hate it, but they definitely love the money we are paying them. And like pretty much every niche, if you're too clickbaity, if you're too vogue, if you're too misleading, you're gonna get banned. It doesn't matter which niche you're at. So it's like that. If we were very aggressively in 2017, now we need to be a bit more, smart on the way we do, and also the audience is smarter. Dynamic working better for you. Dynamic creative, you mean, Craig? A lot of the time we use the testing in dynamic creative, but on most of the scaling and duplication, it won't be on dynamic creative. Why you target only Android when using native ads? How do you know we target only Android?
We don't.
We do not. We target both, but in general, there is this thing that Android users a lot of time have a bit higher CPM than iOS user, because Android user, you can retarget to them, so the brands are willing to pay a bit more on Android users, but there is this downside of narrowing your audience, and then it's increasing your CPC. So somewhere we try to target both of them as wide audience as possible, and then the pixel by its own will give you more Android or more iOS. But as mentioned, it's worth testing both always. Okay, can you tell us about page RPM, and does creative affect to it? On page RPM, not really, but it depends. If the creative is misleading and people bounce really fast, so obviously the overall EPC will drop. And maybe if they're not staying on the page long enough, it might also affect the CPM that we are getting. But yeah, there is a good video in our YouTube about how the EPC is built, so it's worth looking at it. For Facebook campaign, do you use CBO or individual budget for each ad set? I think that now mostly it will be CBO. So it's kind of changing the dynamic creative, right? Because Facebook will decide where to send traffic to. Does the same content work on Facebook and native? The general answer is yes. The more gradually answer is no. Sometimes some articles can work, but a lot of the time, if we look about the top native article and top Facebook article at a certain point, there won't be the same one. But we have both. We have content for both.
I think it boils down to the fact that the different platforms have different processes in place. You know, so with Facebook, you're allowed certain rules like the black text, whereas with native, it's a bit more straightforward. So although in principle, as Chen said, you know, it's targeting the same demographic, in theory, it should work. The reality is that you have very different constraints based on the platform. So you have to bear that in mind, whether policy or actual practical constraints.
Cool. Let's see if we cover everything. From top one, yeah. Craig.
Thank
Okay.
you.
What is Answer Live? I'm trying this feature. You would like to answer this question live. I'm not sure what does it mean. Anyway, thank you, Craig. You rock it and yourself. And yeah, let's do it. So we're gonna record it. We're gonna upload into the YouTube, share it, and follow us on YouTube.
And
we're
LinkedIn
gonna,
and Facebook.
yeah, we're gonna start making more. We're gonna start making more webinars back. We used to do it last year, and we're gonna go back at it. So if you have any specific topic that you're interested in, just ping us, write us on social or you know, to me or your AM. And yeah, good to see everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
creative team.
Yes.
And see you in Barcelona. Yalla, bye.
Yay.